Hey everybody, this is Captain Frugal with my weekly comic book review for April 26, 2023. All right, thank you. Welcome everybody to the channel. For the people that are new to the channel, you might be hearing my notes here. Okay, that's all right. You're going to be some clicks too, because I'm also going to be reviewing a bunch of comic books. I read the ones that I think I'm going to be interested in, and these are the ones I have time to review throughout the week, as well as the cost, and I give them a score of 0 through 10, 7 being average. So yeah, you're going to find more in the 7 area as well. And I also use the website League of Comics Geeks to compare what their readers thought compared to mine, and give a quick synopsis and some information on the comic books. So let's dive in today. I'm going to start with my bottom 3. And my number 3 at the bottom, with a score of 7.02, is Monica Rambeau, Photon number 5. Once again, a 7.02, though 20 out of 22 liked it, with a 3-point average rating on League of Comics Geeks, which tells me that not a lot of people are reading this, and that's why I think it scored as high as it did, which is still isn't super high, is that those are just the people that stuck it through. It says, is this the end of Monica Rambeau? It is not. Monica is pretty sick of navigating a topsy-turvy, fractured realities, and yeah, she's going all over the place. And ultimately, the only way to get out of this is that she needs to look inward, and that's probably the whole problem with this issue. Marvel and sometimes DC are getting too big into introspective. Don't get me wrong, those are good, but a whole series can't rest necessarily on introspection. It can get a little boring. I think that's what happened here. We have a 5-issue. Took 5 issues for this story, which could have really been done in a one-shot, and that's what made it low on my list. Though I will say it's nice seeing the character get some respect, and the art was decent, but it was very anticlimactic. The writer, Eve Ewing, just didn't stick the landing and really bored us at the end, and the artist, Luca Marshka, probably didn't have a whole lot of work to work with when you have just a lot of talking. That makes it really hard to sell a book that way. So it just didn't quite make it. Now my number 2, this one might not be surprising. This one I think everybody knows has not been very good, and that's why it's ending. I'm going to get a reboot, if you will, and that is Hulk issue number 14. I gave it a 7.01. 45 out of 55 liked it on League of Comics Geeks, with a 3.4 average rating, which means it's still doing okay sales probably, and people are thinking, it's nothing special. And that's the thing. This is the whole issue is pretty much this is the best one out of in a while probably on this. Now I'll give that give it credit for that. Titan is now in control, and his endless rage will lead to the destruction of Hulk Planet. Within the remaining fragments of the Mind Palace, Bruce Banner must reckon with the harm he has inflicted on the Hulk, if either of them are to have any chance of regaining control and saving the planet. But Bruce knows better than anyone that once a part of the Hulk has unlocked itself, there's no closing that door ever again. And we get some interesting art with Ryan Ottley. I don't mind his art on the Hulk there. He's not the weak point. I think it's decent art. It's actually a decent ending. And so this is a decent ending to a less than great run. And I think this is what I liked about this issue, is the way it ended. I think this is a way to reset the character. We've had too long of a period of time now where the Hulk is just swayed from the normal. We had the Hulk that couldn't die, and all the horror kind of elements, and that was okay, but I think it ran past what it should have and went too long, and then we dived right from that back into this without going back to a more regular Hulk, and this spaceship Hulk just didn't work for me. But I do like how Ryan Ottley put the character back to where I think he should be. So Ryan Ottley, good job for that. He was a writer and penciler. Once again, I gave this a 7.01. 45 out of 55 liked it, as I said, and with a 3.4 average rating, it's time for this one to go. It's good that we're getting a reboot. And my bottom, this one probably will surprise absolutely no one. And that's Tim Drake Robin number 8. Though where I think you might get a surprise is the score I gave it. I did give it a 7. Yeah, this one actually hit a 7. That's high for this Tim Drake Robin series. League of Comic Geeks said 39 out of 54 liked it with a 3.5 average rating. So yeah, it's I think they tend to agree with me. Megan Fitzmartin is not a good writer from what I've seen, and she definitely is too big into pushing agendas, I think, rather than writing good characters, unless that comes down from the top. I don't know. Artist Nicola, I can't pronounce that last name without butchering it, I think did a pretty good job in this issue. It says, who's ready for a bat team up for the ages? Batwoman shows up at the Gotham Arena with a mystery only the world's best Robin could solve. Together, Robin and Batwoman will help each other or die trying. So with that said, I gave this a 7, and there's the thing. I agree with some that was there. Let me get my notes here. I put that sorry for all these beeps. I'm getting bombarded right now. It says art is decent. I put that, yeah, but it's decent. It's better than what it has been for a long time, so that's good. It's one of the better art for this series. The story is actually okay. This is one of the better, probably the best story so far of the series, right before it's ending here. But here's the thing, is it just me, or does Megan Fitzmartin constantly go out of her way every single issue to tell us that Tim has a boyfriend? It's like she goes out of her way and shoehorns it in where there's no need to have it. It's like it's her whole focus is telling us that he's gay. He's gay and he's a superhero. Instead of he's a superhero that happens to be gay. And I think that's poor writing. And that's one of the issues that people have with this series. In general, myself too. You took him away from a well-done relationship and you've continuously forced it down our throats that he's gay rather than letting him be a superhero that has to be gay, where we might have embraced that more and said, you know what, okay, we can see it. And it might not have seemed as forced either, but this writer just really fails to do that. Why Megan Fitzmartin gets any work is beyond me. Once again, I believe this series, if you've been watching in my videos, there is ending at issue 10, and I don't think that can be too soon. Hopefully this will be the storyline that will be the last storyline for this, because oof, but I can only fear how bad it's going to be. All right, those were the bottoms. So now let's get to the top. Before I get to the top, though, I want to take a moment just to say thank you to these people here. They help the channel out with Subscribestar and Patreon and help support this channel so we have the funds to do this. If you don't have those funds to help, that's okay too. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, tell us what you read this week and what your thoughts are. We'd greatly appreciate it. Okay, let's go to the top 3 and then we'll hit the middle. My number 3 in the top. Are you ready for this? This one might surprise people, and that was the Invincible Iron Man number 5. I gave it a 7.4. 45 out of 48 liked it, with a 4.1 average on League of Comics Geeks, which means it's probably a middling seller, not bad, and it's getting liked though. And it says Tony Stark is at the end of his ropes, so for support he turns to Emma Frost. Will she help Tony overcome the attacks from his new foe, or will the White Queen leave Tony frozen in his tracks? Well, that's always cool to see the White Queen. She's an interesting character. I do like her. Jerry Duggan's the writer of this one. The artist was Juan Gary. Once again, I butcher names. I apologize for all that. But here's the thing. I thought it was a pretty darn good issue. Why it made my number 3. I guess it's sort of obvious. The art I found to be very good in this. It has a solid story. And I have to say this is probably the best Iron Man story-wise I think I've read in a while. I'm not a big fan of, once again, them ruining his past, making him adopted. That was some of the dumbest things I've ever seen. But my thought on this is the writer has to take that crap, the hand that they were dealt with, and deal with that in some way and turned it into a story. So there we have. The only other way I can say to make it better is just ignore that ever happened and retcon it and put it back to being what it should have been. But anyway, that was the Invincible Iron Man number 5. I don't really think you can go wrong with that issue at all. Now my number 2, this was close to number 1, and that was Daredevil number 10. 135 out of 137 liked it, which means this book is probably selling pretty good. It's pretty shocking for in my opinion, for Daredevil, but I like it. It has a 4.5 average rating, which means they are enjoying it too. A turning point. With Elektra at his side, Matt Murdock has launched his most ambitious campaign against injustice ever. Sort of like he's realizing what they've been doing just doesn't work, and now he's going to go try to end all that. But as recent explosive and destructive events have unfolded, he has found himself more and more isolated and with fewer allies than ever before. Chip Zdarsky wrote this, and artist was Marco, I can't pronounce that, so I apologize for that already. But I like the cover of this issue. I thought it was a really cool cover, and I thought the art in this was good too as well. And I like how Chip Zdarsky shows the friendship between Matt Murdock and Peter Parker. And it shows how they really are there for each other, and how this is breaking Peter's heart that he has to do this. And I know this can be a divisive story for some, but I really like this issue, and I know not not everyone likes this sort of big of a scope of story for Daredevil, but I'm enjoying it. I'm actually enjoying it a lot. Once again, I gave it a 7.5. Now my number one, this is the one I think is going to be obvious. It's jumped out. I think it's a lot on the top of a lot of people's list, and that's Green Arrow number one. Now, ready for this? It says 288 of 297 liked it. It means this first one sold really good. I think people were wanting some Oliver Queen back in their life with a 4.3 average rating, so that's pretty good. The Emerald Archer is lost and will take Oliver Queen's whole family to find him, but dangerous forces are determined to keep them apart at any cost. Yeah, I'm not going to go any farther into that one. Joshua Williamson was the writer. Sean, I'm not even going to try the last name again, as an artist and cover artist on that. And my thoughts on this is I really thought this was a decent issue. It was good. I like the cast of characters that we have. Don't like how the uniforms are all drawn on each one, but I do like the characters. We have Ollie giving his thoughts on each one of these characters. And I think that was a nice touch, because you get to see how Ollie feels. I know some people might go, well, look, he's just how great, the female character is. But remember, the female character that he's going really, gushing over is, come on, that's his love, right? That's his love. Got her in her wonderful spandex. You know who I'm talking about. I'm not even going to say her name, because you better know who his love interest is, or there's problems there. If you don't, ask in the chat and I'll put it there later on. But anyway, he gushes over her, and I get that. Some people didn't like it. They thought, they have to always make the women the best. But in this case, I can see him that way. That's the way he is. And remember, tends to be a very socialist kind of mentality kind of person. So you're going to see some of that cringe in his dialogue, and that's why I can let that slide. I think it's fitting characterization, and this issue is off to a good start. So I gave this a 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. All right, with that said, let's hit the ones that did not make it into the top or the bottom. So that's some good, and there's some bad in that if you didn't make it. You're sort of in the safe zone. The first one I want to talk about is Captain America, Symbol of Truth. Number 12. The cover was okay. 35 out of 39 liked it, which lets me know that it's not even quite mid-tier on the sales level. I think it's dropping down with a 3.8 average. White Wolf has used the power granted him by Bucky Barnes to take control of Dimension Z and unleash its creatures onto the new Captain America. Sam Wilson and Steve Rogers are prepared to fight their way through the onslaught, but the Outer Circle has more stakes in his fight than our heroes realize. And that's what I'm going to go over there. The writer is, I can't pronounce these names, Tokchi, artist R.B. Sylvia. Well, here's my general thoughts on this. This is Cold War Part 2. I don't care for the whole Dimension Z thing. I never have. I've said that before. The art style I didn't care for either too much. It's just some panels are okay and some are like, what happened here? It's a decent action in it, though, and it's a decent story, so it's really a decent issue with a 7.25. I hope, I don't mind I love actually seeing Captain America and the Falcon together, even though he's not known as the Falcon here. I like seeing those two team up. I always have since day one when they teamed up together, and maybe we'll get to see that more. I think that would be wonderful, but I'm not going to hold my breath, because this is Marvel and they find ways to screw things up. Let me know. I'd love to know in the comments. Let me know if you like seeing Sam Wilson as Captain America when they team up, or would you rather him be the Falcon when they team up? All right, my next one was Deadpool number 6. I gave it a 7.2. I thought it's a silly but fun issue, decent art, but there's no real story progression here, and I think it's meant to be that way. 57 out of 61 liked it, so it's selling probably decent. With a 4.1 average rating, love is in the air, and Deadpool takes his new romance, Valentine, out on the town. That's all I'm going to get into there, because it's a Deadpool book, so it's going to go off the rails. Alyssa Wong wrote this with the artist Xavier Pena, and it's not bad. 7.2. If you like Deadpool, you'll probably like this. If you're not a Deadpool fan, you won't. There we go. So once again, Deadpool fans, yes. Not Deadpool fans, probably just leave it alone. All right, my next one, going down my notes here, was Mary Jane and the Black Cat. I gave it a 7.05. You see a lot of mid-tier here. 50 out of 56 liked it, which means it's selling pretty decent. Yeah, especially for these short mini self-contained stories, miniseries, if you will. Your new favorite comic book reaches the climactic conclusion. Is this really anybody's favorite comic book? Come on, let's be honest. I like Black Cat and I like Mary Jane, and I, for some reason, find them to be a fun group of characters to work together. I like that. There's certain team-ups that work together, and these two do. I don't like the Mary Jane power, though. I think that's lame. Jed McKay, come on, get rid of that power. And I didn't even like how the story started because of the dark web. I'm not a fan of dark web. So that says a lot that this issue gets a 7.05. I think is a pretty good thing. The artist is Vincenzo I can't pronounce that name. I apologize. You hear that a lot on this channel. But it was a 7.5. It was okay. Decent story, but nothing special. It could definitely use more action. Decent art, but they did. Marvel has a timing issue here, because if you read this and didn't read Amazing Spider-Man, it'd probably throw off some of the punch of Amazing Spider-Man. But let's be honest, who wants to read Amazing Spider-Man right now anyway? It sucks. It's a garbage book right now. And we get more of that. Mary Jane has kids. But really, this is the thing I tried telling people. I'm trying to give it a little leeway, because even though she says they're her kids, they might not be her biological kids. You know, if she's with him, been with him for years, she's taken on that role of mom, and she loves them like her kids. That's the way I look at it. But still, this is a big mistake, in my opinion, of where where Spider-Man should be. All right. The next one I want to talk about is another miniseries. I've been reading a lot of miniseries lately, and that's Lazarus Planet Revenge of the Gods, issue number 4. 43 out of 61 liked it, with a 3.3 average rating, which isn't real high, and I gave it a 7.1, so I'm right around there. G. Willow Wilson wrote this, which she's not my favorite writer by all means, and Becky Cloonan is the artist, which was okay. My opinion is the art was okay, but nothing special. Anyway, says the identity of humanity's mysterious ally is revealed in the action-packed finale. Well, first of all, it's not really that action-packed, just so you know. With an unexpected god at their side, Wonder Woman and the Amazons are ready to take down Hera and the evil machinations once and for all. But what will victory mean for the future of the heroes and villains connected to the gods? And there's where it gets better, in my opinion, and it picks up a little bit. As I said, the art was okay. You know, but what I didn't like is that those G. Wilson seemed like throughout this miniseries that she had something against Billy. She didn't like Shazam, and that really worried me, especially at the very end. So I will say this, with the way she was going in at the very end, I expected a different ending than what this book gave, and I don't want to give away that ending, but I will say this. The ending pleasantly surprised me. Yeah, how about that? The ending pleasantly surprised me. Not the ending of the fight and the battle, but the ending and the getting together of the characters and figuring out what goes next. Shocked me, and I actually liked that, and I thought it was a little bit touching. So I gave that book a 7.1. All right, my next one, I'm almost done, so stick with me here, okay? Please stick with me. It's not too much longer to go. And this one, I know several people I've talked to that have been reading and that have dropped this after the first issue, and I can understand why. And that was Avengers Beyond number 2. And based on what I'm seeing on the League of Comics Geeks, 8 out of 11 liked it. It was a 3.5 rating. Think about it, 8 out of 11. I'm thinking people aren't into this story. They're just dropping this book. It wasn't good enough, and I get that. I really do. Derek Landy was the writer, and the artist Greg Land, and there's part of the problem. Greg Land, you either like him or you don't, and I'm not a big fan. I do like the cover, and I think it's interesting. You can see when he's doing his normal tracing work as opposed to when he's not, because if you look at the faces, the ones he traced are usually proportional and fine, but when he's not, the heads aren't always in proportion. They're a little off and things, so you could tell he's good at tracing. There's a decent amount of action in this, but the story doesn't move much forward. In this, I probably gave it a higher score than I should have. I gave it a 7.21, which is just barely above average. As violence tears New York apart and ordinary citizens become crazed, superpowered thugs with nothing but wanton destruction on their minds, Janet Van Dyne, and that's one of the main reasons I got this issue, is because of the Wasp. I'm a fan of the Wasp, and I think she needs more books. Wasp fights to save not only the lives of her fellow heroes, but also a friendship. I'm not going any farther than that. I hope Marvel continues to push the Wasp a little bit more. I think she's getting more of a push. I think she deserves it, being a founding member of the Avengers, for crying out loud. And speaking of that, let's go to my last issue that I want to cover. And you might have guessed what it is based on just what I was saying. And that was Wasp issue number 4. 27 out of 28 liked it, 3.9 average rating. That's still not a real high number, so not a lot of people are probably jumping to this character, which is sort of sad. I think this book had decent art. The story was a little slow, though. It's an interesting ending, but I like the ending. The ending is sort of setting up another mini series of Wasp or an ongoing. So I like that concept, but how they did it, I don't think we need to kill off certain characters. I'm not saying who's dead. Check out the comic yourself to see that. But somebody supposedly is dead here to help continue the story. So anyway, Al Ewing is writing it, which is probably why I think it's a little long in the tooth, because he tends to write and spread things out a little long and slowly. Artist is Cassia, I can't pronounce it, which I thought the person did all right. Just when it seems that Janet and Nadia Van Dyne might lose a mental and physical battle against a creature from Cosmos, an unlikely ally returns to remind them where their real strength comes from. And I'm not going to go any farther than that, other than I did enjoy it with a 7.04. I just think it could have been a little better. Let's give Janet a really good artist and a really good writer, and let's let her shine a little bit. But there you go. There's my 12 issues. What did you read this week? What should I have read? And what did you think was absolute garbage? And what did you think was great? I'd love to know. That's what makes these videos fun. All right, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day, and you know what's coming up next. So until next time, keep it